So the part that follows the if is going to be considered the hypothesis. So remember back in science, like you kind of made a hypothesis, you made a guess, okay, at first. So it kind of still follows that reasoning. The next part, the part that follows the then part, is the conclusion. If the statement is true or false, is called the truth value. So we'll say, what's the truth value of that statement? And then you will use a counter example to prove that something is false. So like if you're over the age of 18, then you are 20. So, or you're in your 20s or something like that. Well, I am over 18, but I'm not in my 20s. So the counterexample would be, well, if you're in the 30s or 40s or 50s or whatever. So that's just kind of sort of like that would be just a little example. And then so the converse is what switches P and Q. So you need to make sure you know all these vocab words. So it switches. So if something else, if you are blah blah blah, then you are da da da. Then you flip flop those. So that's the converse. All right, so if you are older than 12, you are a teenager. That's our first statement. We're going to circle the hypothesis, write it down, underline the conclusion, write it down, and then explain the truth value of it. So the hypothesis is the if part. So if you are older than 12 is the hypothesis. Then underline, then you are a teenager. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the example that I gave, the counter example. I'm older than 12, but I'm not a teenager. So the truth value is false. Okay, there's no truth value to that. All right, we're going to do the same thing to these two. So I'm going to circle the hypothesis. If x is equal to 5, then x squared equals 25. And that is true. And then because if I square 5, I get 25. Okay, so this one's kind of tricky. So a geometry student is a math student. So this isn't an if-then statement. So we need to make this statement an if-then statement and then identify all the pieces. So if a student is in geometry, then they are a math student. All right, so we're going to circle the hypothesis still. So if a student is in geometry, that's your hypothesis. Then they are a math student. And then the truth value of this is that's true. So if you're in geometry, you're a math student. All right, so now we're going to work on the converse. So the converse flips the conclusion and hypothesis. So the conditional statement, if you are older than 12, then you are a teenager. So the converse of that is if you are a teenager, then you are older than 12. Okay, so the truth value in this is true. So the converse is true here, where before the conditional statement was not true. Okay, so again, we're going to flip this one. So if x squared equals 25, then x equals 5. So I just flipped those two. Now the truth value here, this one's tricky because x could be -5 as well. So it could be 5 or -5. So this one is going to be false. And then we have our statement here that says if we rewrote it as if if a student is in geometry, then they are a math student. So we're going to flip flop that. So if you are a math student, then you are in geometry. And then the truth value in that is false because you can be a math student, but not necessarily be in geometry. You could be in algebra 1 or algebra 2 or whatever. So this one is going to be false as well. All right, so that's it for just wrapping up conditional statements. So the hypothesis is the if part, the conclusion is the then part, and then the converse is when we flip flop those two. That's it for conditional statements.